Behind Europe's rise is a story they rarely tell. A story written in African gold, rubber, and human lives. Today we break down the story of Europe's control over Africa. From colonization to modern exploitation, and why it never truly ended. How did Europe reshape Africa's economy? Once Europe took control, they reshaped everything to serve their own needs. They didn't build for Africans, they built for profit. Colonial governments demanded taxes. But most Africans didn't use money, so they were forced to work. Some were sent to farms, others to mines. Some had to build roads or rail lines. It wasn't about development. It was about control and extraction. Villages were given quotas. They had to bring rubber, palm oil, or cotton. If you failed, you were punished. In the Congo, under King Leopold of Belgium, entire communities were terrorized. They were forced to collect rubber, and millions suffered. Railroads were built, but not for travel. They connected mines to ports. They moved goods, not people. Local markets collapsed. Farming changed. Crops for survival were replaced with crops for export. Africans became workers in a system they did not control. Europe's wealth grew, while Africa's freedom shrank. This was not development. This was extraction. What was the psychological strategy? Europe didn't just take land. They took mines, and they called it the civilizing mission. They claimed they were bringing progress, and said Africa was dark. And Europe brought the light. They used schools, churches, and newspapers to spread this idea. They taught African children that Europe was superior. They taught them to speak European languages and to forget their own. They replaced African names with Christian names. And they replaced traditional systems with European laws. The goal was control, not education. They wanted Africans to believe they were less, to trust European ways, to doubt their culture, their leaders, even themselves. Some Africans resisted, others accepted, and many were caught in the middle. This mental strategy made colonization easier. It broke the spirit before it broke the body. Did Africa fight back? Yes, Africa fought back. And they fought hard. In Ethiopia, Emperor Menelik II saw what was coming. He trained his army, bought modern weapons, and studied the enemy. In 1896, at the Battle of Adwa, Ethiopia defeated Italy. That victory kept Ethiopia independent and shook Europe's confidence. In West Africa, Samori Toure built an empire and resisted French invasion for almost 20 years. He moved his capital, changed his tactics, and refused to surrender. In Ghana, Yaa Asantewaa rose to lead the Ashanti when the British exiled her king. She said no more. She took up arms and led the fight. In southern Africa, the Zulu nation had already proven their strength. Shaka Zulu had reshaped military strategy. Later leaders stood firm against the British, even when outgunned. These were not small uprisings, but they were full-scale resistance. Africa did not give up. Europe had machines, but Africa had warriors and leaders. The fight never truly stopped. What were the long-term effects? The lines drawn in Europe still divide Africa today. Borders forced together people who never shared language, culture, or history. That led to civil wars and conflict, not by accident, but by design. Colonial rule ended, but the system stayed. The economy still works the same way. Africa sends out raw materials: gold, oil, diamonds, and cocoa. And Western countries send back finished goods at higher prices. That setup still favors Europe, not Africa. France still controls the currency in 14 African countries through the CFA franc. These nations must keep half their reserves in a French bank. And through trade, fees, and control, France still collects over $500 billion a year from its former colonies. It is not just France. Foreign companies still own Africa's wealth. In Mali, Canadian and Emirati companies control gold mines. In 2025, a UAE firm purchased a 50% stake in Mali's Sadiola gold mine for $375 million. That money did not stay in Mali. In Nigeria, the oil that built the nation is still tied to foreign hands. Shell, ExxonMobil, and Eni created the foundation. Even now, international firms help shape prices, contracts, and export deals. In Zimbabwe, the Maranje diamond fields produce millions of carats. But most of the profits go to political elites and foreign-linked companies. The communities living on that land see little in return. Angola opened the Luwele diamond mine, one of the biggest in the world. Foreign companies are already lined up to collect the wealth before it ever reaches the people. In Tanzania, Barrick Gold, a Canadian company, runs some of the largest gold operations. The country also has major reserves of natural gas, graphite, and rare earths, which power global technology. But again, outside investors hold the advantage in profit and control. Even in Botswana, where the De Beers shares ownership with the government, the diamond wealth still passes through Europe first. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, it is cobalt and coltan, the key minerals for smartphones and electric cars. Chinese firms now dominate mining in this region. Labor conditions are often harsh, profits leave quickly, and the people remain poor. This is what colonialism left behind, not just flags and borders, but systems designed to extract. Global banks, mostly based in the West, still decide who gets loans and on what terms. Much of Africa's debt today came from deals made during or right after colonial rule. China has now stepped in, not with colonies, but with contracts. They build roads, railways, and ports, but many of these deals come with high interest and long-term control over key assets. The school systems still teach European history first. Courts still use European laws. Power is still tied to European languages like English, French, and Portuguese. This is not just history. This is now. Europe may not rule the land anymore, but it still controls the wealth beneath it, the systems around it, and the profits that come from it. Was Africa the only target in Europe's global takeover? Africa was not alone. The same strategy Europe used to conquer Africa was used across the world. In India, Britain ruled for over 200 years. They controlled the land, the resources, and the people. While Indians starved, British ships exported grain and wealth back to Europe. In Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos, the French ran the plantations, collected the taxes, and called it empire. They used labor, forced loyalty, and harsh punishments to keep control. In Indonesia, the Dutch dominated the islands for over 300 years. They took spices, sugar, coffee, and more. They kept the people working and the profits flowing back to Europe. In the Middle East, after the fall of the Ottoman Empire, Britain and France drew new borders. They divided the land and installed rulers who would protect European oil interests. Those lines still cause conflict today. In the Americas, Spain and Portugal were the first to arrive. Britain and France followed. They stole land, enslaved millions, and built wealth off sugar, tobacco, and cotton. In the Caribbean, plantations powered Europe's rise. The people who worked those fields never saw freedom or wealth. They saw chains. This pattern repeated across continents. Take the land, control the people, and ship the wealth out. Europe didn't just conquer Africa. It conquered the world. That's a wrap, history seekers. For the bigger picture, watch The Scramble for Africa next. Getting to the roots is where history comes alive. We uncover the truth about Africa, African Americans, and American history, one story at a time. Thanks for watching. Peace and love.